This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with Chris Wyse from Burrowing Owl from the Okanagan out in BC. We don't see nearly enough BC wines here in Ontario, so it's a great delight today to get here early in the morning at Le Sommelier and taste through some absolutely delicious wines, both white and red. Chris, would you mind giving us a little bit of background about your family's winery, Burrowing Owl?
Yes, we started in '93. We purchased a vineyard at that time. It had been largely pulled out. The grapes had been removed, sort of as a side effect of the NAFTA agreement. And what had happened is a lot of the poor qualities, the hybrids and the lower quality grapes had been that used to be grown in those areas were no longer competitive. When we came along, we planted European vinifera, which was sort of the front edge of the revival of the Okanagan wine grape growing. And shortly after planting the grapes and getting the vineyards up and running, we saw great success with the wines being made from our vineyards. So in '98, we decided to build a winery and start Burrowing Owl. And that's basically how we started into the wine business. We brought in some great experts from California, built a gravity flow system, underground barrel cellar, and sent down the road of making ultra premium wines.
Now, Burrowing Owl is seen by many as being one of the most pioneering of the Okanagan wineries. You've chosen to make a number of varietals. Would you mind speaking to what you have chosen to keep in the ground and what you have chosen to bottle?
Sure. I mean, when we first planted the vineyards, we started off with quite a large vineyard. We planted about 340 acres in total. And at that time we tried everything. We did the Italian grapes, we did the French grapes. And over the course of time we watched the vines to see which ones did well. And we found that the French Bordeaux's were probably what we felt to be the best fit stylistically, similar to what they should taste like, obviously, for that site. But we also found that Pinot Gris did exceptionally well. And even Chardonnay was a fantastic style, very, very reminiscent of some of the Burgundian Chardonnays. So we've gone down a little bit, of course, the wines that we like to drink, can't help yourself. But we also found that the wines that we're making were, in our opinion, the best match for the sites.
You've always had quite an environmental edge at Burrowing Owl. What are the origins of that?
You know, at the end of the day, when we're farmers, and as a farmer you start looking at things from a long-term perspective. What are you doing to the soils? You're pulling nutrients out of the soils, you're using the water, so you want these things to carry on and be healthy, and I think that gives you an overall approach to our environmental concerns. We're very concerned about the plight of the Burrowing Owl. It's struggling to survive in our area. It used to be populated in large numbers. And in the early days, we came across Sorco, or the group that rehabilitates Burrowing Owls to the region. And we've made it one of the causes of Burrowing Owl, the winery, which is partly the reason for the name, to support this group. And we've gone a long way down the road to keep that group healthy and happy, and actually had some success with the rehabilitation of the Burrowing Owl to the region.
We are delighted that we're actually going to be seeing a lot more of your wines in Ontario, it has to be said. How do you feel about the cross-country distribution of wine as it sits right now?
You know, there's always struggles when you're dealing with all the provincial barriers, of course. But that aside, you know, we look at ourselves as being a brand for Canadians. We don't look at ourselves as being a Western brand. We want to be available across the country. And yeah, we're definitely doing our best to try to see if we can't get these wines distributed equally to all the provinces.
Where is most of your wine sold?
Still today in the West, yeah. A large portion of it is sold in BC and Alberta, but more and more with the help of Le Sommelier, we're hoping to see some wine being distributed here in Ontario.
Do you export to outside of Canada at all?
We do. We sell some wine to Europe and a little bit to Washington State.
Oh, where in Europe?
It starts in Switzerland. And from there, mostly to the northern countries, Germany, and we're seeing a tiny bit trickle into Scandinavia now.
As well as the single varietals, you do make a couple of blends. Would you mind speaking to those for a moment?
Sure. Well, we make our Meritage blend, which is our Bordeaux, and we work with a Bordeaux consultant, a fellow named Alain Sutra, who's really, we make his primary focus be our Meritage blend. Of course, there's a trickle-down effect. It helps all the varieties, but that's really where he starts his efforts. And a second blend that we've introduced recently is a co-fermented blend of Cab Sauv and Syrah, which we call Athene, or Athene caniculare.
And that's the Latin name of the burrowing owl, I believe.
Correct, yes, yeah, the genus, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today in Toronto at the Sommelier offices. It's been a real pleasure to taste through these wines, and we look forward to perhaps visiting you in the Okanagan at some point.
I look forward to meeting everybody in the Okanagan to show you the wineries. And we have a 10-room guest house and a 60-seat restaurant open most of the season.
And what would the season be in Okanagan?
Basically, we're shut down for December through till February.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can make a trip out west and come and pay you a visit.
Okay, look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks for now. Bye.
Bye.